Thank you for whoever's adding people to attendance.
Okay, looks like we've got a lot of the usual parties here. Um, let's see. Okay, I guess we're gonna read the facilitator script since I'm the facilitator. Hello, everyone. A reminder that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to LFX and YouTube. So everything you say will be recorded and no one will ever look at it. Your participation in these meetings is an agreement to abide by the Cloud Native Code of Conduct. And I need someone to volunteer as a scribe since I can't do that and run the meeting at the same time. Thank you, Brent. Um, if you are putting in your attendance, it's great if you can throw in your company um, and any updates, feel free to add them to the agenda. Let's see, new member intros. I don't see any new members. So I think we're going to go on. And I didn't see anyone had signed up for a presentation.
I could give a it'd be like a 2 minute walkthrough of the Security Slam, kind of what we presented to people this time. I don't think I've ever actually shown that off to this group.
Okay,
If a
go for
community
it.
demo is needed.
I mean, we can also skip that, but I don't think we
You're
have anything.
facilitating.
Do you want to do a presentation?
It's very short. I'll just show you guys the
Okay.
kind of like
Yes. Thank you,
uh,
Eddie.
yeah, sure. So what I'll do is this is obviously not a presentation, but if you go over to securityslam.com, you can see all this stuff that we've been doing for the last month. The last day is on Friday. Um, and if you want more information about how this has been executed in past years, we have links here. This will take you out to the CNCF website, and you can see the reports. Some of them are in kind of blog format, transparency report, and then I think one or two of them are like actual like they made a design activity out of it, which is fun. So you can like get a whole PDF and look at the report from the past years. And what we did was we kept this website very, very simple. There's almost nothing on there until this Slam launched, at which point we revealed these 5 badges. You can go in from left to right, which actually was a point of feedback. They were not organized in order of difficulty at first, but that was changed. Um, there is all these different badges. There's also this overview page. I guess that would have been this correct starting point. There's this overview page where you can listen to me narrate the page if you like, or you can just kind of read through describing each of the objectives. And we have asked people to register if they want to qualify for a Credly badge at the end. So we have your information about where to send the Credly badge. And then we had it running from February 20th until this Friday, March 20th. And next Thursday, we're going to be on the KubeCon stage showing this off to everybody. Um, what I'm going to be doing, if possible, if I manage to actually get the things in my hands sooner, as soon as I have the plaques for projects that the projects can put in their booths, I'm going to let the projects know to pick them up from wherever I have them. So that way, any projects who happen to be at KubeCon and happen to have a booth can show it off early. But then we'll do kind of a debrief and a photo op on Thursday. Um, this is not going to be a big song and dance. It's going to be just kind of like, hey, here's what we found and here's what we did. And past that, there's a bunch of different blogs that are available as you go through. I think I've got a library page that has all of them. Uh, and then there's some that are just like generally helpful, like hey, you could use Minder to auto configure some stuff. You can use Inspector to get your SCA turned on if you don't have SCA otherwise, which is required by the baseline. And then just a bunch of other guides, projects that want to provide CRA for their end users. There's a whole guide from Roman and Madeline on here, talking about like how to support your end users who are beholden to regulatory requirements. And then there's a form for anybody who actually does these things to just kind of come over here, drop in what you did. We thought about making this more complex than it is, but it's really just like, hey, what what did you do? Who are you? Submit. And we've got 5 projects that met a threshold right now to get a plaque, and I think maybe 13 that are going to get some pins and stuff for partial completion. And that's long and short of it. So this is kind of a project update on Slam also at the same time. But I never kind of walked everybody through this. But this is it. If you have anybody that is like wanting to get some pins or a plaque, the we are receiving contribution submissions until Friday, and for to get a plaque, we're asking you to complete 4 of the 5. So any 4 of the 5. That's not actually published. It's just a scoring metric that we decided to grade on a curve. So anybody who does 4 of these 5, like this one is do the best practices badge. This one is get some automation set up. This one is do a self-assessment or threat assessment. If one of those things is like more difficult for you than another, then you could pick 2 of 3. And then these 2 are just documentation activities. They're really quick. Most everybody did these. Uh, and in total, it seems like folks are getting this done in a day, have been getting at least 3 to 4 of these done in about a day. So if you have any project that is in your scope or any friends and you want to get a plaque that you can show, I think I'm going to be able to mail out the plaques also, but at minimum there's going to be Credly badges and stuff. So if you have a project or friends who have not done this yet, just remind them that they have 2.5 days now to put through any submissions.
Okay, let's see. We had an APAC tag meeting. Let's see if there was anything in it. Um, a oh, that's a summary of what we did. The IAM white paper is going to the TOC review, and it looks like there's a KCD Melbourne event in August if any of you are thinking about going to Australia. Any TOC meeting updates? I wasn't able to make that time. I know, Brent, you sometimes go. Did you make it?
I did not. For some reason, this one was not on my calendar.
Okay. Project updates. Supply chain insights basically didn't meet, so nothing there. It sounded like there was a security assessments update from Justin.
Yeah, I wanted to give two quick updates here. So first of all, on the Kyberno project. So we didn't get the assessment completed. There's interest from their side in getting this done, but they didn't, like, things didn't happen before KubeCon. The TOC said, well, we're going to go ahead and move Kyverno to graduated status. And there was also some suggestion from Karina that the assessment process in the future might be required before projects move level. But since that wasn't the case at this time, there was a feeling that perhaps it didn't make sense to hold back the project based on something that wasn't a formal requirement. So Kyverno has gone ahead and the voting for graduated status has already gone through. But they still want to continue with this, and we're going to be doing this during the during the KubeCon timeframe, it looks like. So I'm not sure. I've really only heard little tiny bits from Andrew Martin, and I haven't heard anything that I'm aware of. There, I guess I should recheck the channel, but I don't recall seeing anything from the other reviewers. So would love to have more than just effectively me and possibly Andy going and saying, yeah, okay, here's our feedback, here's what's good, because people did give good comments on the doc itself. It's just that after that, I think because there was a little bit of a lull, people tended to scatter to the winds and haven't come back to really help to finish this off.
There was also some discussion last week on the 11th. Unfortunately, you weren't here. Andrew showed up, and some of the folks from Kyverno showed up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was here the week before when the Kyverno folks showed up, but Andy wasn't able to make it, or the week before that or something. But
Yes.
yeah, that's good to know. I need to watch the recording there. Yeah, okay. And then the other thing is that there's another project that's come and done a self-assessment, which is Hami. I don't actually know correctly how to pronounce it, so forgive me. I know I just said it wrong at least one time, possibly both. Oh, it looks interesting. Okay. It looks like it might be a Japanese name, so I guess Hami is correct. So it's a heterogeneous AI computing virtual middleware thing, like a Kubernetes virtual GPU scheduler thing. And it's a sandbox project. They did quite a nice write-up of it, and put in a self-assessment. I looked over that self-assessment. I can actually post both of these into chat here. So that's the project link. And here is the assessment pull request as well. And so they indicated there was some interest in them going and doing a joint assessment. I'll ask them to fill out the initial form, but we'll likely be looking for people. This will probably start after KubeCon EU, because I think a lot of people will be quite distracted, myself included, for the next week. But then after that, we may start another assessment. So just wanted people to be aware of it. If you haven't done something like this, it's a great low stakes opportunity to get a little bit of practice and understanding of security, how to do these assessments, how to understand what risks you should be concerned about with a security project and stuff like that. So more to come on that after KubeCon EU.
Next, I would ask about security controls, but it sounds like Jen isn't going to be here and has put some kind of update into the GitHub issue. So we can look at that if we want, but I don't think there's anything we need to discuss. The MCP authorization white paper. I think, John, you're tracking that?
There was no meeting this week, so.
And then we already heard about the security slam. So that takes us through our project updates. There don't appear to be any new issues on the issue triage, except that I know Marina is working on getting a CNCF blog post ready to start the supply chain security recipe card series. So this is something from the supply chain technical community group to provide sort of, here's a recipe for how to secure your supply chain, topic X, topic Y, that hopefully gives you, small concrete steps to take. The first one is on GitHub Actions dependency management. So that gives you a sense as to the size of the topics. But I think the goal is to start with 2 or 3 of these, one at a time. And then if they turn out to be useful and popular, to figure out an ongoing collection process and publication, maintenance process. But until it's proven out, we're going to use the CNCF blog as a place to get started with this content. General stand-up and check-ins from partner groups. Well, I guess I kind of stole the thunder from that on the technical community group, but any other partner groups that have stuff they want to share? There was an interesting discussion in the baseline, OpenSSF baseline meeting yesterday about how baseline fits in with some of SIG Security's projects. Eddie, do you want to represent that, or would you prefer that I do so?
Go for it.
Okay. So Victor Liu showed up and basically described some of the projects that SIG Security is working on around providing guidance to people deploying Kubernetes as to how to do so securely, and asked how baseline fit into that. And I think the baseline summary was, we are aimed at the people producing the software, giving them guidance as to, what to do to make the software as produced secure, but we are very much staying out of deployment of software and software as it is lived, as I describe it. The actual, hey, we put this in here and these are the administrators and these are the processes that go into updating things and so forth. And I think that's an appropriate place to draw a line, but I thought it was an interesting discussion elsewhere about boundaries and how far to go. And I see Brent has his hand up, and Mike Lieberman has his hand up, but Brent first.
I think I'm gonna maybe rabbit hole us, and so cut me off. But I'd be really curious in your kind of like raising this, what some of those criteria might look like, and particularly with the bias that I'm a maintainer for the Zarf project in the OpenSSF, and our goal for this year is one of our objectives for this year is to maybe help tell more of our story of how we help secure the packaging and deployment of software And so I'd be really interested if there is a potential alignment or play here for us to collaborate on.
I mean, so there's a recording if you're curious about all the details, but I think the summary was, our advice to open source projects is that they should provide guidance on how they expect the project to be used and how they expect it to be used safely. End users can go and use the software in any number of ways, which may not align with what the project expects. If you start driving, off road, all of a sudden, you become responsible for a lot more stuff than if you stay on the paved pathway. So that was a place where we felt like, okay, upstream can give you some guidance about how to stay on the roads and how to stay safe, but downstream, you're the one who's actually making the choices, and you can decide, hey, it's, a lot shorter if I just cut across that field. And then, it's up to you to figure out what happens when your car gets stuck halfway across. But Mike,
So yeah, I think like there is one thing in baseline around like essentially declaring your interfaces and how people should be using your software. So that I think like beyond that, I wouldn't go too far down that path. And I think also baseline does a really good job at describing the meta of a project and how like everything but the code, because so much focus has been on how do you secure code and how do you secure like as in like the Go code or Rust code or whatever, whereas baseline is focused on what are you doing as a project. um, um, so I think it does a good job at that, and I wouldn't want it to kind of again expand into that thing. I do think that what he's describing, Victor is describing, is a useful sort of thing. But we do have also a Kubernetes best practices guide and some other things as well. So I'd be curious to really understand what sorts of use cases he's really looking at, because and I brought this up to him in the past, so this is not like a me calling him out or anything like that. But I think in the past sometimes he's seen these things and been like, "Oh, we have this need. Does this fit that need?" And the answer can be no, and maybe just sort of directing him to like the better places that folks are looking at there. Like things that people are looking at in, other places to,
yeah, this was partially in a CRA-ish context. But one of the great examples that came up was figuring out what the end user of the software is not immediately obvious. So if you're an author on Kubernetes, maybe your end user is a manufacturer who is building, basically Kubernetes cluster in a box hardware. So you get this chunk of machines, you rack them up, you plug them in, and now you've got a Kubernetes. But maybe that manufacturer sold to a bank. Maybe is that bank the end user? What about the bank's customers who are using the software that's running on that cluster? Are they the end users? What if one of those is a business that's doing invoicing? The end user could be any number of those steps along the way. And so a good point for cutting off some of this advice is, hey, you're producing this stuff. Here's what you ought to do. And that's where baseline cuts off. But I thought it was an interesting conversation for us to keep in mind as a tag as well. Was it would be great to solve all the security problems in the world, but we probably can't. And having a clearly defined boundary may be useful.
Well, I mean that's exactly the point, right? Is that we need a different catalog for a different use case, right? So something like Brent was describing reminds me of there's a very early stage discussion in Finos around SDLC controls, right? And that's a different control catalog. Like if Brent identified a use case where it would help to have community agreement around a specific scenario then you could write a catalog that it's like, hey, this catalog's just for this scenario. And you could import from baseline or you could do other things, right? But like you could have a new conversation, I guess is my point, is if you identify a new use case, you could have a new conversation.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to like, I know this is kind of maybe pulling it back up one more level. Is like I think when we look at like security use cases for specific industries, and like again, I know that the end user could be, like are we talking about like the grandma trying to use online banking, or are we saying like no, it's the engineers? Um, I think when it comes to those sorts of things, and I know that there's like the what was it, public services or whatever it was, Brant, that you worked on. Was it you or did some folks working on here inside the CNCF of like a user group that is focused around individual industries? So I know there's like an energy one, there's telecom, there's a bunch of others, and I think that's where a lot of that stuff is better suited for, like the hey, as a bank, I am interested in running this software in this way, and I want to set up best practices and maybe say, hey, I want to build a control catalog that satisfies my stuff. But I've found, at least personally, that like when you start to go try to do it more generically, like let's all sit down together and try and kind of build out something that could satisfy most, you always end up in it just ends up being arguments over whose use case is actually the one that makes the most sense and hits 80 users. Yeah, public sector user group, that's the one.
Okay, well, we're now at the part where we try to schedule next week's community demo, except it's not next week because we're taking a week off. But I don't know if anyone has suggestions or, we should really do this or that.
We're explicitly calling out next week as canceled, right?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
There's actually a big gap in the presentation schedule for reasons I don't understand. The next one is shown as April 8th. I'm guessing that's an oversight. Or maybe no one wants to present on April 1st.
I'll present. Just you guys, if I'm not there when it starts, just keep waiting for me, okay? Eventually I'll show up. For those who don't have a, like, I don't know, Western background, there's April Fool's Day is April 1st, so people play pranks on that day. So that's what my joke was about, in case anybody didn't get it.
I will say it is funnier when you explain it.
As most jokes are.
I will make sure that our next week's meeting is in fact canceled on the calendar so people don't try to show up. Okay, well, everyone take like 16 minutes back. Bye.
Thanks for hosting.
I
Bye.
thank you.
Yep.